crashes, broken records, and a moment so shocking that it brought an entire race category to a halt. These were some of the most unbelievable moments of the 2026 Isle of Man TT. From horrific accidents to historic achievements, this year's event reminded everyone exactly why the TT is considered the most dangerous motorcycle race on Earth. Before we get to Michael Dunlop's incredible final tribute, we need to talk about one of the most controversial incidents of the entire week. Union Mills has a reputation that every TT fan knows. Over the years, this section of the mountain course has been the scene of some truly frightening crashes. Riders approach it at incredible speeds, leaving almost no room for error. Just ask Keith Moore, whose heavy crash here in 2011 remains one of the most memorable incidents ever seen at the TT. And in 2026, history repeated itself. During the second Supersport race, local Manx rider Jamie Cringle was pushing hard, searching for every possible second. But at Union Mills, disaster struck. The crash was violent. Cringle was left lying on the tarmac with severe injuries, including open fractures to his tibia and fibula, a fractured sternum, and damage to a lumbar vertebra. Thankfully, he survived. But what shocked many fans was what happened next. Despite the seriousness of the incident, race officials chose not to stop the race with a red flag. The event continued, and while medical teams worked to help Cringle, the battle at the front carried on. Michael Dunlop eventually crossed the finish line to claim yet another victory, securing his 9th consecutive win in the class. It was an incredible sporting achievement, but the discussion afterward wasn't just about Dunlop's success. Many fans were debating whether the race should have been stopped altogether. Fortunately, Jamie Cringle survived the crash, and everyone involved was grateful for that outcome. Unfortunately, yet another family has been forever affected by what is widely considered the most dangerous racing course in the world, the Isle of Man TT Mountain Course. I'm talking about Daniel Ingram, the 2024 Manx Grand Prix winner, a rider who had just proven himself at the senior level and was stepping up toward the biggest stage of all the TT. And during qualifying, we saw that reality unfold in the worst possible way. Ingram was on his first flying lap, approaching Doran's Bend, when everything changed in a split second. He lost control of the bike and crashed heavily. Within seconds, red flags were out across the course. Despite immediate response, it was too late. He sadly passed away at the scene. Another life taken by a course that shows no mercy. And once again, the TT reminded everyone watching that this isn't just racing, it's survival at extreme speed. From here, I'd like to extend my deepest condolences to his family and loved ones. But here's something many people didn't even notice. One major name was missing from the grid. When you think of the Isle of Man TT, you think of riders like Davey Todd, one of the most consistent and aggressive competitors on the mountain course. A rider many believed would be a strong contender in 2026 after his recent performances. But fate had other plans. A horrific crash at the Daytona 200 left him with serious injuries, a fractured femur, tibia, and damage to his foot. Injuries severe enough to keep him away from the very roads where he built his reputation. He wasn't just missing from the race, he was watching it from the sidelines. And honestly, many believe he could have been one of the few riders capable of challenging names like Michael Dunlop and Dean Harrison this season. But for now, that battle will have to wait. Then there's Parliament Square, one of the most iconic yet unforgiving sections of the course. A tight 90-degree corner, surrounded by heavy brick buildings and packed with spectators standing just meters away from the racing line. It's one of those places where riders don't just fight the track, they fight physics itself. But during the opening free practice session, that danger wasn't just limited to the riders anymore. It reached the crowd. And sadly, 8 people were injured, a chilling reminder that at the TT, the risks don't stay on the road. They can spill into the world watching it. So, some tentative good news to start Day 2 of TT 2026. We got an official statement this morning from the organizers confirming that 6 of the 8 spectators, along with the competitor involved in yesterday's incident near Parliament Square in Ramsey, have now been released from hospital. For a moment, the entire paddock collectively breathed a sigh of relief, everyone recovering, and that alone felt like a small win on a course that rarely gives any. As a precaution, that section was closed off to fans for the rest of the event. And honestly, when you look at how aggressively Dean Harrison was riding, it starts to make sense. On Tuesday evening, Conditions were almost perfect, but deceptively dangerous. The low evening sun cut through the trees in certain sections, creating sudden blind spots and flashing glare that could catch even the most experienced riders off guard. But Dean didn't back off. He pushed straight through it, riding like the conditions didn't even exist. What followed was nothing short of a masterclass, a violent, mechanical fight with a bucking front end under blinding sunlight. He delivered a record-breaking standing start lap of 133.2 mph, and he wasn't finished. On his next run, he pushed even harder, clocking a massive 133.925 mph flying lap. That wasn't just fast, it was officially the fastest opening day qualifying lap in over 100 years of TT history. But while the superbikes were rewriting records, the sidecar class was delivering its own kind of chaos. And honestly, it's a completely different world. 3 wheels, 2 riders, and barely inches separating them from disaster at over 140 mph. During the same Tuesday session, sidecar legend and recipient Maria Costello, alongside passenger Shea Parker, were absolutely on the limit. They were flying through the fast sweeps of Brandish at around 140 mph when everything changed in an instant. A sudden hazard appeared on the road, and in sidecar racing, there is no margin for correction. The machine was unsettled violently, and both riders were thrown off. The session was immediately red flagged, and this time, race control didn't even release full onboard footage, a rare silence that says everything without saying anything. Costello suffered catastrophic spinal injuries, leaving her paralyzed from the mid-chest down. A devastating, life-altering moment for one of the sport's most respected figures. And just when you think the mountain course had already taken enough, it struck again. Less than 24 hours later, during the third qualifying session, reigning sidecar champions Ryan and Callum Crowe were pushing hard through cross four-ways, one of the fastest and most unforgiving sections of the course. At nearly 160 mph, everything looked stable, until it wasn't. A sudden loss of control at full speed sent their machine into a violent crash that stopped the session instantly. Medical crews were deployed immediately as silence fell over the paddock once again. Because on the Isle of Man TT, momentum can turn into tragedy faster than anyone can process. Their gear was torn to pieces on impact, and both riders were immediately rushed to hospital. This time, the organizers didn't hesitate. A shocking but necessary decision was taken. The entire sidecar class was suspended for the rest of the 2026 TT on safety grounds. The reaction was mixed, but emotional. One rider summed it up perfectly: "It's gutting. We work all year, race all year, just to be here at the TT. But honestly, I still think it was the right decision. These machines are getting insanely fast." And just like that, the sidecar paddock was silenced, with hopes now pinned on a return in 2027. But even in the middle of all this chaos, heartbreak, and uncertainty, the TT still found a way to deliver something different, something human, something almost beautiful amidst the heavy atmosphere hanging over the paddock. John McGuinness, the Morecambe missile, arrived for a very special milestone, his 30th anniversary at the mountain course. To mark 3 decades at the TT, he rolled out with a retro-inspired green number plate on his Honda, a direct tribute to his early racing days. It almost mirrored his 1996 machine, back when he first started building his legacy. Seeing a rider of his generation still lining up at number 1, still committed, still pushing, felt surreal. And while most 54-year-olds are long retired from this level of danger, McGuinness still delivered a solid 130.9 mph lap, finishing P5 in the Superbike TT. But this wasn't just about speed. He was visibly emotional afterward. When asked if the thrill is still there, he didn't hesitate. "Yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't it be? Look at it, you can't ask for better conditions. It's beautiful up here." And in that moment, you could feel it, not just the racing spirit, but the connection between rider, machine, and mountain that keeps pulling them back year after year. And while emotions were high in one corner of the paddock, pure strategy was deciding everything in another. The Supersport race showed exactly why the TT is not just won on the road, but also in the pits. The 600cc Supersport machines demand absolute perfection, no mistakes, no delays, no hesitation. And when you've got 2 legends like Dean Harrison and Michael Dunlop battling at the front, every second in the pit lane becomes race-defining. Out on the course, Dean Harrison was doing everything right, even taking an early lead with controlled, aggressive precision. But the Isle of Man TT doesn't just reward speed on the road, it rewards execution under pressure. Michael Dunlop, chasing his 35th TT victory and a 10th consecutive Supersport win, timed his strategy to perfection. As both riders dove into their mandatory fuel stops, tension in the pit lane became almost unbearable. Dunlop's crew executed a sharp, clean stop of 31.4 seconds. A controlled, professional turnaround. But the Honda crew on Harrison's side lost precious seconds, a costly 36-second stop, including a small but critical delay during the handover. And just like that, a 4.6-second swing changed everything. A lead that was earned on the road vanished in the pit lane. Because at the TT, victory isn't just about who rides fastest. It's about who makes the fewest mistakes when it matters most. Sector times were coming in thick, everyone waiting on Dunlop. And then it became clear he still had the lead. Dunlop then, 1.7 seconds up, which meant Harrison had effectively lost around 5 seconds in the pits alone. And in TT terms, that's massive. That's race-defining. Dunlop never looked back after that, once again proving why many call him the undisputed king of the mountain course. Michael Dunlop, the dominant force in this category. That victory marked his 17th TT win and his 10th consecutive Supersport triumph. But he didn't stop there. In the new sport bike class, he delivered another statement ride, pulling out a brutal 30-second lead with a 124.3 mph lap insane pace for a lightweight production machine. At that point, the race wasn't about winning anymore. It was about watching who could survive the pressure behind him, and suddenly, all attention shifted to the fight for P2. Mike Brown and Paul Jordan were locked in a battle separated by just 1.6 seconds. Every corner mattered. Every braking point mattered. Is there enough time in the final sector? That was the only question now. They pushed to the absolute limit. Across the line, Mike Brown first. Then Paul Jordan, but it wasn't enough. Brown held on by just 0.6 seconds. A podium decided by less than a blink. Honestly, how do you even process that at 130 mph? But while that fight stole attention, the main event, the Milwaukee Senior TT, belonged to one man from the very start, Dean Harrison. Riding Superstock spec Honda instead of a full superbike, he looked like he was on another level entirely. From the opening lap, he was untouchable, smashing sector times and posting a blistering 135.166 mph average lap speed. By lap 2, approaching Parliament Square, the gap had already stretched to 15 seconds. He was on pace to rewrite history. Everything looked perfect, but at the TT, perfection never lasts. And then came the moment that reminded everyone why this course is feared more than any other in the world. On a high-speed section, deep into his charge, one rider suffered a violent crash that immediately brought silence to the entire course. Race control didn't even confirm details for hours. The uncertainty alone told its own story. Medical crews rushed in, the session was neutralized, and the atmosphere in the paddock completely changed. In an instant, a record-breaking ride turned into a reminder of how fragile everything is here. And then, the weather finished what the crash started. Rain rolled in from the Irish Sea, sweeping across the island and forcing the remaining race distance to be abandoned. The Senior TT was called after just one lap, and despite the shortened race, Dean Harrison was declared the winner, a deserved but emotionally heavy victory. So let me ask you this, can a win still feel complete when the race itself doesn't finish? But the 2026 TT didn't end on silence. It ended with a moment of respect. Michael Dunlop returned to the wet track for a final run, not for competition, but for the fans. He wore Uncle Joey Dunlop's iconic bright yellow helmet and rode a replica of the legendary 2000 Honda SP1. No pressure, no stopwatch, just legacy. A final emotional lap to close out another brutal year on the mountain course. And with that, the 2026 Isle of Man TT came to an end. Smash the like button if you felt the intensity, and subscribe for more raw, real racing documentaries that most people never see.